So what happens is you have, of course, water. Depending on where you live, you might lose water within an hour or two, depending on the pressure, right? You think 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, right? And so the example you mentioned of people in hospitals on respirators, something like that, unfortunately, they're going to perish very quickly. Most hospitals, thankfully, have backup generators. Water becomes the next significant issue. It's both for consumption, but it's also wastewater. So you think about just the convenience of being able to flush a toilet and know that that waste is going to go somewhere. Without electricity, it backs up. So whether it's apartment complexes or residential homes, many different places.
That's disease, water, third world countries deal with that, okay.
And then you have the societal effect, really just, you would have societal collapse. And we've seen this. We
talked about food in a prior episode. We talked about food.
Right.
You wouldn't have access to food if you don't have electricity.
Absolutely not. Yeah, that food infrastructure, as we mentioned in the last segment that we did about that, it all depends on electricity. It's a just-in-time service with respect to the grocery stores ordering. Most groceries have enough on the shelf for about 1 to 3 days for the local populace in that area. Then you have regional distribution centers that have possibly up to a month worth but that's refrigerated, right?
Right.
You lose refrigeration and you don't have backup power, that food spoils within a matter of days.
Okay, so we lose food. Medicine, we would lose the ability to travel because you can't pump gasoline and all that. So I get it. All right, that's how 90% go. So what do we do about it?
So like I said, the good news is a fixable problem, right? The reason it hasn't been fixed is not enough Americans realize the vulnerability and they haven't applied enough pressure to the people who can fix it. Now, who are the people that can fix it? Well, the utility industry can if they wanted to, but for them to do it, it costs money, right? And at the moment, what they've used their money to do, the money that we pay in our electricity bills, is to lobby our elected officials not to regulate them and force them to protect the grid against all these hazards, right? And so we're in a position right now, if you can believe it, it's pretty incredible. The utility industry is self-regulated. They make their own rules to protect their infrastructure, and those rules have to be approved by the federal government for the bulk power system, FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And we're in a spot right now, if you can believe this is the only industry where I know that this exists, where if the critical infrastructure protection standards, the rules established by the industry and approved by the government, if a utility breaks those rules, we don't get to know. We don't get to know, Congress doesn't get to know, public service commissioners don't get to know. The federal government, FERC, removes the name of that utility when they put a public notice about that enforcement action. It's the only industry that does it. You look at the pipelines with the Department of Transportation, over 20 years, 4,395 violations, every single one of them publicly disclosed. But if our utility decides to break the rules that are established for the protection of that most critical infrastructure,
established by themselves,
we don't get to know.
Wow.
And so the good news is we're doing something about it. One of our members of our Secure the Grid Coalition, Michael Mabey, a retired command sergeant major in the Army, sued FERC. Why? Because he put 255 Freedom of Information Act, FOIA requests to disclose the names of more than 1,500 violators, 1,500 utilities that have broken these rules. And FERC denied it. And so he sued the federal government, he sued FERC. I'm involved in the lawsuit myself to essentially say, look, there is no reason, no national security reason why you can't release the name of these violators. So the public gets to know.
We have a right to know.
We have a right to know. And so with that sort of pressure, with public education and public outrage, frankly, that can begin the process of causing really the executives in these companies to want to do the right thing.
Is there a way for an outraged public to respond? What do they do?
There is. So we have a number of different websites. SecureTheGrid.com is one of them, and I'd be happy to talk to you about a documentary that we have coming out soon that will educate them about this and give them some tools for them to actually get involved in this fight.
That's great. And take action?
Absolutely. So at SecureTheGrid.com, we maintain a page. You literally click on it, take action, and whatever the latest campaign is where people can make a difference, they go to the Take Action page, click on it, and it gives them a series of instructions on what they can do to make a difference.